Imagine a world where we have access to a virtually unlimited source of clean, reliable energy. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, some scientists and policymakers believe that nuclear power could be the answer to our energy needs. But nuclear power also comes with significant risks and concerns. So, is it worth the trade-off? In this video, we'll be diving deep into the pros and cons of nuclear power to help you decide. Nuclear power is a complex and polarizing topic that has been debated for decades. On one hand, nuclear power has the potential to provide us with clean, reliable, and abundant energy without the emissions of fossil fuels. On the other hand, it comes with significant risks and concerns, including nuclear accidents, radioactive waste disposal, and nuclear proliferation. So, it's important to explore the pros and cons of nuclear power and weigh them carefully before making any decisions. In this video, we'll be discussing the three main pros and cons of nuclear power, so you can make an informed decision about its role in our energy future. Let's take a closer look at the pros of nuclear power. The first advantage we'll discuss is that it's a low-carbon energy source. Unlike fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas, nuclear power doesn't emit any carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change. This makes it a crucial part of the effort to reduce global carbon emissions and combat climate change. Nuclear power has already played a significant role in reducing carbon emissions in many countries around the world. For example, France generates over 70% of its electricity from nuclear power, which has helped it achieve one of the lowest carbon footprints of any developed nation. Similarly, Sweden and Finland generate about 40% of their electricity from nuclear power, which has helped them reduce their carbon emissions significantly. However, it's important to note that nuclear power does have some potential drawbacks or limitations as a low-carbon energy source. For example, while it doesn't produce greenhouse gas emissions during operation, it does require significant amounts of energy to build and maintain nuclear power plants, as well as to mine and process the uranium used as fuel. Additionally, nuclear power plants do produce radioactive waste, which needs to be stored and disposed of carefully to prevent environmental contamination. Finally, the possibility of nuclear accidents and the associated risks of radiation exposure remain a concern for some people. Another key advantage of nuclear power is its high energy density. This means that nuclear fuel contains a very high amount of energy relative to its mass or volume, making it an incredibly efficient source of energy. Compared to other forms of energy such as fossil fuels and renewable sources, nuclear power has a much higher energy density. For example, just 1 gram of uranium produces the same amount of energy as burning 3 tons of coal. This means that a relatively small amount of nuclear fuel can produce a large amount of energy, making nuclear power plants very efficient. Thorium, on the other hand, is even more energy dense than uranium. 1 gram of thorium can produce as much energy as burning 4.5 tons of coal, which is significantly more than the energy output from 1 gram of uranium. This makes thorium a very promising alternative for nuclear power generation, with the potential to provide an even more efficient and cleaner energy source in the future. Another advantage of nuclear power is that it provides reliable and continuous power generation. Unlike renewable energy sources like solar or wind, which can be intermittent and dependent on weather conditions, nuclear power plants are designed to operate continuously, providing a stable and consistent source of electricity. This is because nuclear power plants use a process called nuclear fission to generate heat, which in turn produces steam that drives turbines to generate electricity. Unlike fossil fuels, which need to be constantly replenished, nuclear fuel can generate energy for several years without needing to be refueled. This makes nuclear power plants ideal for meeting baseload electricity demand, which is the minimum level of demand for electricity that must be met consistently over time. Of course, there are concerns about the safety, maintenance, and cost of nuclear power. Nuclear power plants require careful management and regulation to ensure that they operate safely and securely, and that the risk of accidents or radiation leaks is minimized. Maintenance and decommissioning costs can also be significant, and the cost of building new nuclear power plants can be higher than other forms of energy generation. However, with advances in technology and safety protocols, nuclear power remains a promising option for meeting our energy needs, particularly in areas where renewable energy sources may not be as feasible or reliable. Now we come to the cons of nuclear power. The risk of nuclear accidents is a significant disadvantage of nuclear power. Despite the numerous safety measures and regulations, accidents can and do happen. One of the most well-known nuclear accidents in history was the Chernobyl disaster in 1986, which resulted in the release of a large amount of radioactive material into the environment. The accident caused widespread health and environmental impacts, and its effects are still being felt today. Another notable accident was the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in 2011, which occurred after a massive earthquake and tsunami caused a series of equipment failures and reactor meltdowns. While these accidents are rare, they highlight the potential risks associated with nuclear power. The radioactive materials released during an accident can cause long-term health and environmental damage, and the costs of cleanup and recovery can be substantial. To mitigate the risks of accidents, nuclear power plants are designed with numerous safety features, such as backup cooling systems and containment structures. In addition, strict regulations and inspections are in place to ensure that nuclear plants are operating safely and that any potential issues are identified and addressed promptly. Despite these safety measures, the potential for accidents remains a concern for many people and has led to opposition to the development of new nuclear power plants. Another major concern regarding nuclear power is the issue of radioactive waste. Nuclear power plants produce highly radioactive waste materials that can remain hazardous for hundreds of thousands of years. This waste is typically stored on-site at the power plant in special containers designed to prevent leaks or breaches, but this is a temporary solution. To address this issue, long-term storage solutions are necessary, but there are concerns about the safety of such facilities and the risk of accidents during transportation. The storage sites must be designed to remain secure for thousands of years, which is a challenging task. There is also the issue of transporting the waste to these sites, which involves a risk of accidents during transit that could result in contamination of the environment and population. Furthermore, there are ethical concerns about the long-term storage of nuclear waste, as it poses risks to future generations who had no part in its production. It is essential to ensure that the waste is stored in a way that is not only secure but also ethically responsible. Despite these challenges, there are ongoing efforts to find more sustainable and safe ways to dispose of nuclear waste, such as deep geological repositories and advanced reprocessing technologies. However, these solutions are still in the experimental phase, and it remains unclear whether they will be successful in addressing the issue of nuclear waste. Nuclear proliferation is another significant concern associated with nuclear power. The same technology used in nuclear power plants to generate electricity can also be used to produce nuclear weapons. This is a major cause for concern as the potential for nuclear materials to fall into the wrong hands poses a serious threat to global security. The risks associated with nuclear proliferation are numerous. Nuclear weapons are incredibly destructive, with the potential to cause widespread death and destruction. In addition, the spread of nuclear weapons increases the likelihood of conflict and can lead to an arms race among nations. The possession of nuclear weapons can also be used as a tool for political leverage, further exacerbating tensions between nations. Despite these risks, efforts have been made to prevent nuclear proliferation. International organizations such as the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, have been established to regulate nuclear power and prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. These organizations monitor nuclear facilities and work to ensure that nuclear materials are used for peaceful purposes only. However, there are still concerns about the potential for nuclear materials to fall into the wrong hands. Proper security measures must be taken to ensure that nuclear materials are safeguarded and that any attempts at theft or smuggling are detected and prevented. Overall, the issue of nuclear proliferation is a complex and ongoing challenge that requires continued international cooperation and attention. As you can see, there are both benefits and risks associated with nuclear power. It's up to each of us to weigh these factors and decide whether we believe nuclear power is a viable solution for our energy needs. Personally, I think that while nuclear power has potential benefits, we need to be extremely cautious and make sure that safety and environmental concerns are taken seriously. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you found this discussion on nuclear power informative, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel for more insightful content in the future. Thank you for watching.